Good morning. Hi, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. It's chilly and nippy here today, which I know compared to the Midwest and the East, like I got nothing on you guys. But yeah, I had to wear a coat over to my office this morning. Big deal, right? Anyway, I'm so excited to be here this morning. We have an amazing lineup of guests this month, and what better way to kick it off this first Wednesday in March with the visual artist and painter David Kassan. He is just a force to be reckoned with. I can't wait to introduce you to him. Everybody, thank you for coming. Good morning. Good morning. Wonderful seeing new names and new faces here. Please subscribe, hit like, all those things. But truly, without further ado, I'm going to bring on my new friend, David Kassan. He is just amazing. Here we go. Let's bring David on. And he is going to tell us about his incredible work, his masterpiece called Facing Survival. Hi, everybody. Good morning. Here you are. Good morning.
Hey, how's it going?
Nice to see you.
Yeah, great to see you. Just want to make sure my phone doesn't fall.
Right, right. Mine was falling a little this way, a little that way. So I prop mine up on my computer, and then if I lean my computer screen, it helps me with like, you know,
Awesome.
tower things falling over and stuff like that. So how are you doing this morning?
Good, good. It is morning time. I got up pretty early.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm working on a project in the studio, so I've been I have two studios, a home studio, and we're
Mhm.
doing renovation in our home right now. And so I have another studio that I've been getting out to early to work on some stuff.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
And of course, I really want to talk about your, what I call, I'm sure many others do as well, your masterpiece, Facing Survival. But you do so much more than that. So let's start with like all the fingers that you have in different pots and everything, and then we'll come around to Facing Survival, which is just amazing. So tell
Thanks.
me what you were working on this morning.
Uh, Online teaching since the pandemic. So my wife's also a painter and we teach a lot together and we do a lot of workshops, and we used to travel all around the world to do
Wow,
workshops. Like we've
wow.
been to South Africa, I've been to Australia like 3 or 4 times now, teaching all over the United States and Europe and everything. And since everything kind of shut down pretty much like this week last year, I think almost like the
Yeah,
second
it
week in
was.
March, it
Yep.
was, or in early March. That was our last workshop, was in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Hmm.
And so we started moving everything online, and I've been filming everything with HD resolution in my studio to kind of get really good clarity so that I can show students exactly what I'm doing. And actually it's been pretty incredible because the students, I think, get more out of seeing things right as I'm seeing it, as I'm doing
Yes.
things in clarity, than they do over my shoulder back during a live demo. And so, I mean, just in my studio, I'll just tilt forward. So I'm working on this. This is just a start of a drawing I started this morning of model John, who lives out in San Francisco, who's kind of a famous art model. And I'm just
Nice.
doing a block-in stage right now, so I just started. And
I
I've been
mean, I've
filming. I
seen
got
some
my
of your
camera right here.
videos of which you speak, and they're fascinating. I mean, just seeing your brush up so close and to the canvas, and it is, it's kind of mind blowing. My
Thanks.
grandmother was a painter, and I would watch her paint, but again, it was over the shoulder. And in terms of exactly what you just said now, people really being able to see how you see, it's incredible. It's really wonderful, beautiful.
Thanks. Thanks. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's definitely been a learning curve, getting the right cameras and everything, but I think we're pretty dialed in now.
sure.
I say we because my wife does classes also separately, and so I think she's filming right now actually at our studio in at home.
Okay,
But
good,
yeah,
good. And what's your
it's
wife's name? We want to send love to
Shayna.
your wife too.
Yeah, Shayna Levinson. We don't have the same last name because of only when we travel do we have the same last name.
Hmm.
Pretty much, yeah.
Right.
She's an
Probably makes
artist on
sense.
herself. She didn't want to move in on my art name, I guess, whatever that means. But
Understandable for sure.
yeah,
Sure. So facing survival. One of the things that I've noticed, I've watched so many different clips online to get to know you even more after our initial conversation, our initial meeting, which it was so exciting meeting you a year ago at the Museum of Tolerance and seeing this unveiling of this, enormous, people call it life size, but it's larger than life size. And this incredible multi-panel canvas of 11 different survivors that hits you in the face with such profound emotion. You would have to be a brick to not be moved by what you have created and the stories that are leaping off the canvas that you just feel like you're experiencing. And you feel, of course, that you're in the same room with these people. And one of the things that you say that is, I love this, that painting is an excuse to get to learn about other people's lives. I mean,
Yeah.
that's brilliant. That's just brilliant. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think with all different types of painting, landscape painting for me is I'm going to a place like last time I landscape painted for real was actually Israel. Uh, I don't do it very often, so this was maybe like 5 or 6 years ago. And just I remember what it was like sitting on this hilltop painting towards Masada in the distance and just what the air smelled like. And so painting is really about the experience of being in a place and taking your time and just soaking up the atmosphere of being there and creating a memory that's not passing or fleeting that you get from taking a photograph and kind of moving on, so you sit there for 3 4 hours. I was with friends of mine and I remember that what they were painting on their easel, you know what I mean, at the same time I was painting, and they were looking the other direction, and just in that camaraderie of being with them too. It makes going to the Dead Sea. We painted pretty much on the coast of the Dead Sea. Um, just so much more palpable as a painter. And for getting to know the subjects that I'm painting, I don't get to be with them very long, usually only a few hours at the most, because I was trying to get it to meet as many survivors as I can because of the urgency of my project. But the ones that I have had, I've been lucky to meet, like Elsa Ross, like she became a grandmother almost to my wife and I, because she lived in Albuquerque where we live now.
Yeah.
And so we get together with her every couple months, whatever, for lunch and hang out. And she'd come visit the studio when I was working on that big piece. Ed Mossberg, I go and visit him every time I'm in New York, which I used to be there more frequently, so I'd go visit Ed. Just some survivors, just you have a connection to, so you get to spend a little bit longer with them. But doing the paintings, I'm listening to testimony as I'm doing the paintings, hopefully kind of having this kind of spirituality of having a transformation osmosis kind of thing where their story is getting put into the painting.
Yes.
And I think of a painting as a lot of people see painting as very surface. It's either realistic or it's abstract or there's elements like that. But I think of it as I'm not really making product at all. I'm really kind of creating that experience for myself, which is selfish. But every thought I have about this person is being captured by the painting. So thoughts like in the drawing I'm working on right now, it's all just like, is this left or right? Is this angled this direction? Does this get smaller or longer? And so basically every question I'm asking about the person is being captured and soaked up and absorbed by the panel that I'm painting. And that to me adds weight to the painting. That I'm inaccurate at first. It's very broad. I'm not sure if I'm going to get accurate, but I'm there to be part of that process. And I think the story for me in the paintings that I'm doing now is that the technical aspects have become kind of intuitive. And that's that mechanical side of my brain, you know what I mean? And then the other side is the more compassionate, emotional, empathetic kind of side of my brain that kind of seeps in because now the technical stuff is kind of on autopilot. I get to really think about their lives more when I do the painting versus just getting the ear perfect. You know what I mean? I know I can get the ear perfect. I know I can get the colors correct. It's just, for me, it's about kind of how do I learn more about this person through the act of painting.
Right. Which certainly that speaks to the adage that, you do 10,000 hours of something and you become a master at it. So it makes sense that those things would be on autopilot. I love that you spend time even before you pick up the brush to really try and get to know your subjects and listen to what they have to say. I think that, I mean, I've never sat for a painted portrait. I've certainly sat for a lot of photographers. And I've never had a photographer actually really take the time to listen to the story. It's always been a much faster process. Uh, the one photographer that I've worked with, it was a completely different experience, and I think that he was able to actually capture what was going on. And it's because we decided that it wasn't a shoot; it was just a day. We were just spending the day, and it wasn't just about pictures for me, but we were also making pictures for him. And so there was an exchange there that I think really comes through in the photographs. So that's a lot of what you're saying here. But let's go back even further. Before you started on the project, do you remember a moment in your life when you realized that this, getting survivor testimonies through art, that was something that was a calling for you?
Yeah, you know, I never, it's funny, I don't think of it as a calling necessarily. I had, sorry, um, I had, so I'd started really, exactly what you're saying is kind of, I think of things if it's, I never want to be a tourist as a painter. And so like, I don't want to just paint somebody and then not talk to them or learn about their life. And so I did a documentary film. It was started out as kind of an instructional thing where I had an older woman sit for me and I wanted to learn about her life through painting. And it turned into the conversation I had with her every time she sat with me was really interesting, almost more interesting than the painting itself. And so I did that in 2014 and I made kind of like a film kind of documentary kind of thing that I used to kind of give like sell to students and whatever and kind of it was pretty fun. And so that idea kind of merged with this idea where I got asked by a collector in Israel who lives in New York if I would paint his mother-in-law. And I don't do portrait commissions at all. I don't think of myself as a portrait artist. I think of myself as a painter who just has faces and heads in paintings, and everything I do is life size. And so it's hard for me to do paintings that are giant, you know what I mean, for what I want to do all of the time. And so when I do like
So
studies,
correct
they're
me
just
if
like
I'm wrong,
portraits.
is Facing Survival not, is it bigger than life size, or is it not? Or does it just feel
Oh,
bigger
the
than life
painting.
size?
The painting is called Bearing Witness. Is the
Bearing
painting.
witness.
The exhibition was Facing Survival.
Okay.
Um, it's funny. The paintings are right here in the studio. That's You're so nice at what you said about it, but unfortunately, the painting ended up. It's all boxed up in my studio
Right.
right now in Albuquerque. We're still trying to find a home for it, I guess. Uh,
Yes. Wow.
Someday it'll be exhibited. It's been there since it left the Museum of Tolerance, but
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
it lives online though. I think actually a painting can live online a lot longer than it can when it's exhibited. So
Right.
hopefully it'll find a home someday. Um, Hopefully in LA because a lot of the survivors, actually all the survivors are from LA, the LA
Mm-hmm.
area.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so anyway, back to how the whole project kind of started was this guy asked me to do a portrait commission. I'm like, well, you know, I really appreciate that you like my work and you want to commission me, but you know, I don't really do commissions at all. And then he goes, well, listen, it's my mother-in-law. She's really special. She's a survivor of the Shoah. And I was like, I'll paint her. You know, it's not a commission. I just want to talk to her. And I was already in this idea of filming and getting to know someone's story that just was so happenstance that here's an opportunity for me to learn about her story. Someone like the full spectrum of humanity is in these stories, you know,
Mm-hmm.
of like your story of the film that you're working on, you know, where you traveled around and to meet the people that hid and the relatives of those that hid your family, you know, that's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. Um, so for me to be a part of that, it wasn't at first kind of the stories took over way more importantly than the painting for me, which is which is amazing. You know what I mean? That I'm just kind of there just to kind of record things, almost like a camera, I guess. But so back to that story really quick is that so he went to his mother-in-law and said, hey, he'd love to meet you, film you. Oh, I said that it wasn't commission, like they don't have to purchase it or anything. I just want to do the painting, you know. uh, so he went back to her and she said no, that she didn't want to be painted by me. I think they looked at my work and my work's a little raw sometimes because I'm very I want to have the most honest uh, outlook on everything I paint,
Yeah.
because especially with this subject, you know, I want to be as honest and straightforward and raw and real, just real, and all with the subject and who I'm painting, which also fits into kind of how I do all my paintings. You know, not I don't paint every wrinkle. I can't do that. I'm not like a photorealist that I'm painting every pore. I paint to make it look like there's some stuff there, but not photorealistic at all.
Okay.
The but anyway, so then that was interesting. So I had been in Israel, and then I had a student of mine who came to visit my studio in Brooklyn at the time, and I was telling her the story about how like I had this chance to meet a survivor, and it'd be cool to like maybe paint a survivor. And she goes, "Well, you know, both my parents are survivors, and they live in the tri-state area." And so I met with Sam Godofsky first, and he lived in Fort Lee, New Jersey, and he met up with me at the gallery that I exhibit at in Chelsea, in New York. And so I got to film him, interview him, and then do a painting of him subsequently. That's the first in what is now a series. What didn't start out as a series because I was still doing my own paintings for the gallery to survive and everything, you know, because I have to sell paintings and I have to teach and stuff to basically pay my bills and pay my studio rent and everything. But so I started out with Sam, and then Sam's ex-wife lived in Forest Hills, Queens, with her sister. They lived right up above each other. Goldovsky, and Bella and Rosalind. And so I got to paint both of them. So I did a dual portrait or painting of both of them together. And then it kind of just was grassroots, meeting people and meeting other survivors. And then the Shoah Foundation stepped in and they helped me find survivors for a big trip that I was able to fund uh, through a generous guy I met in Aspen. And so he funded so I could go to Europe and meet with survivors in Europe, where I met with Marian Tursky in Poland. I met with Pinkas Gunter in Toronto, uh, Ellie Gotts, people I'm painting right now. I met with Dario Gabai in LA, who is the last living witness of the gas chambers at Auschwitz because he was a Sando commando.
Mm.
Uh, it's crazy, and then just seeing how they deal with things differently, what their different thoughts are on the Holocaust. It's everyone's so unique in how there's not a monolith, you know what I mean, of
Right.
thought where
Right.
how every survivor is politically or even how they coped with what they've been through. So that's been, again, as a painter of humans, people, you know, to be able to enter this world where you get the full spectrum from almost everybody you meet. And it's been absolutely incredible and eye-opening.
Well, one of the other things that you share in one of your videos is that you feel that telling stories, um, painting helps you bring the story into focus. And you also talk about reckoning with your past and trying to understand your family's history and legacy and your grandfather as well. Can you just share with people that are here on Instagram with us right now what your grandfather's story is and why you wanted to get to understand it more, and do you feel like you've been able to do that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think my grandfather's story it's kind of been elusive for me and my family because he wasn't a nice guy, and make that flat out. Like he left my dad when my dad was only 15, and he
Mm.
left my dad and his sister, who I think was only 6 at the time. And so my dad kind of had to get a job at 15 to pay bills so that his mother, who was a music teacher in Long Island, could pay the bills. And they were able to. Luckily, the bank there in Long Island was able to save their house because they would have lost their house. But the bank
Wow.
helped them out, which was amazing. My aunt knows the story of that aspect. And then he moved. I guess my grandfather, Murray Kassan, moved to Arizona, and so he had a whole nother life out in Arizona versus what he had in New York. But his story was that he was a really young boy, and his family escaped the pogroms in Romania and Ukraine after, like, I think it was 1920s that they came over. And first, his older sister went over, but then she got sent back, and then they all tried to go together and were in a displaced persons camp. Now, this is all fuzzy right now. I'm still learning all the details
Sure.
from some relatives that I've met on Facebook in the last year that I
Right.
want to go out to LA and meet with and get the details a little bit more sewn up. And so they were in a displaced persons camp before they came over to America finally through Ellis Island, where our last name got changed from it was like Kazatzker
Hmm.
to Kassan. And so I used to always, my dad would tell me that our name used to be something different, but he didn't know what it was. So I used to always sign my paintings Kassan with a dash because I
Ah,
didn't know what the last name was completely.
mhm.
So, and also the spelling is changed and differently. And then I found out that my grandfather had written a book about his survival and how his parents met in a little shtetl in Ukraine, like a town that doesn't even exist anymore. I mean, it was wiped out by the Cossacks, you know. So it's crazy. And then my grandmother's story, like her family was all from Poland, and we don't know where any of them went. You know what I mean? It's kind of that story where just the whole history gets wiped out.
Yep.
It's a blank slate, and I don't know how to find the history of my grandmother, who I'm really impressed by my grandmother more so than my grandfather. You know,
Mm.
he might have more written down about the story of his life and his history, but my grandmother's family is really what interests me. And she was a music teacher in Long Island. Her name was Ida. Schoenfeld was her last name. And that just fascinates me, you know, how she was able to hold it together as a woman like whose husband just left, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially at that time period. And this is in the 50s, like mid 50s in
Hmm.
Long Island, you know. And she taught music, and we had accordions growing up. That my dad had an accordion, and I'm, what is it? Accordion? It's crazy, you
I
know.
love it.
So, but the
Yeah.
arts were always important with my father, and he was super supportive. And anyway, so learning about history of other people for some reason makes me feel like I can figure out my own. I guess in long story short,
Hmm.
you know.
Yes. I mean, I think that's why I'm making this movie also. It's helping me understand who were these people that I'm related to and of course have never met. Well, I shouldn't say of course, but I never got to meet them. And you know, when I learned that my mother's biological mother was working with the resistance and the underground and helping other people get out of Germany, you know, and then you question, well, why didn't you help your own family get out of Germany? But for whatever reason, she felt that she needed to help others. And of course, she paid the ultimate price and was murdered at Auschwitz. But even my mother's biological father, who did survive, and all the things that he had to do to keep the family together and alive, and they eventually came to America. He couldn't come for another 10 years. So, all these things, I think that at least my generation, your generation, it can feel very far removed, but it's not. It wasn't that long ago. And so by doing what I'm doing and making a movie to try and bring their stories into the future, but what you're creating with your pieces and painting in the way that you do is so present and tactile that you can only wonder, like, what is the story behind this person?
Oh,
It's not.
thanks.
Yeah, yeah,
I, I,
it's
I
breathtaking.
I feel that today kind of things are so digital and so deletable that I think that hopefully something that's our like my method's so archaic. You know what I mean? It's like artists always say I just paint with like animal hair brushes and like dirt. You know what I mean? Dirt and oil. But
Yeah,
the idea that yeah, so like you're doing this amazing film and you're learning through this history that's so valuable to you. Like it's almost, do you find that it's more valuable that you don't even have anything afterwards? Like say your film, you complete your film, you might feel like almost like a grieving process, I think, afterwards in
that's
a
a
way.
really,
Because,
really interesting question. I'm so in the thick of it right now that I
yeah.
don't feel that. But being an actor my whole life, there is always this kind of blues period after I finish a role, after we close a show, um, and it's heartbreaking. You really go through this grieving process of not even so much of missing the character that I was playing, but missing the company of people because we all gave birth to the project together. And whether it's a company of actors or a one person show, but you still have your tech crew and you still have the front of house manager and you still have all the people that bring theater to life. Or even on a film set. I was on a film set the other day, and you know, there's almost like this walk from the set to your car after you know you've been wrapped, where you're like, well, now what? You know, like what am I going to do now with my feelings or emotions? And um, That's a really, really interesting question. I have no idea how I'll respond when this
I
when this
think
one.
I think you're probably just my assumption would be that you're probably going to be like, I'm glad it took 3 years or 4 years. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I mean, for me, I'm kind of like not in the idea of, so we're having a film made on the project. It's not even me. I have producers and a director that are working, and I'm helping to fundraise for it and helping to promote it because I have all the content that they're going to want, like films and whatever, and all that stuff at Facing Survival. And like, so I'm picking your brain as to make sure that they're doing it right, even though they're experts.
Sure. Yes.
You know? And so
And
fundraising seems crazy. I love what you put on your emails, like just like for an empathetic, like just we got to lead with empathy. I think I have that on my tagline on my Instagram because I think of
nice.
as a painter, I want
Hmm.
to paint with an empathetic eye, not a
Hmm.
technical eye. You know, that's like dispassionate, not
Hmm.
separated from the subject. But I want to be in it. Like some people are arts. There's so many different concepts and opinions on art that some people are saying you should be dispassionate about it so that you can focus
Mm.
on things better, and
Mm.
you shouldn't be connected with the subject. So it can be kind of everything that's realistic can be in abstract form first that you're
Right.
not in love with that you can change. And I think there's different voicings of the words of dispassionate. You know what I mean? Like I can technically be uh, agnostic about how an angle should be, but not about the person I'm painting, not about the subject.
Oh,
Same
for
as
sure. I mean, I can't imagine creating any kind of art with dispassion and having kind of this distance. The distance that I think as an actor that I have to have, or even as a filmmaker, is I remember there was this one time I was playing an abusive mother, and the performance was actually on Mother's Day. I was like, what the heck? Okay, well, I've been hired to do this. And so the I wouldn't call it dispassion, but we do have to remember that it is a character that I'm playing. It's not me. And I have to allow myself kind of this decompression period. Maybe it's just 15 minutes of saying, okay, I'm not on stage right now. I'm not in that character's shoes. Because, of course, I don't think of my characters as characters. I think of them as me. They're just me walking in somebody else's shoes. And I'm amazed that my husband is still with me because it's been 34 years and he has been through every character I've been through. And sometimes you come to the table with the character, and that's not always a pleasant experience for the person that's, breaking bread with you. And sometimes it can be hilarious or whatever. Sometimes he gets lucky, but there's never a dispassion to it. There just has to be like a psychological protection, I think, sometimes, at least from my point of view. And when I've been interviewing people for the film Would You Hide Me, there's always the possibility that if I ask someone, like I'll ask you right now, if I come to Albuquerque, you're in Albuquerque right now, right?
yeah.
If I come there and for some reason I need to be hidden, would you hide me? And it's so easy for people
Which
to,
you though? Which you would I be hiding?
yeah, right. Which me would you have? Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's that you never know the kind of reaction you'll get from people when you ask such a profound question. You'll either get a very glib answer or a very automatic answer or an angry answer or a dismissive answer or all these kinds of things. And so there is always this experience of having to protect myself emotionally, but not at the expense of, of being dispassionate. That's a great question. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Tell us the name of your producer and your director. I want to give them a big shout out because I just love that they're doing it
Yeah,
with you.
Jeffrey Schneider, who's out in LA. He's amazing. And we actually met at the Showa Foundation like maybe 2 years ago. And
Mm-hmm.
he did some filming for me. He was actually there the night that we met at the Museum of Tolerance. That was a crazy night, by the way, because I'd flown from New York. I took the red eye over to New York. It stayed in LA just for that day and then flew out the next morning at like 6 a.m. back to New York. Or no,
Wow.
back to Albuquerque. It was just crazy.
Yeah.
So I didn't have any sleep. Uh, I think they had me say some words about the project, and I don't even know I think I blanked out and hit the podium on the way down.
Oh
Um,
no, I don't
no,
remember that. Oh my
I'm just
gosh.
kidding.
You
That'd
were
be really
coherent.
funny
You were
though.
very coherent. And I remember meeting Jeffrey. He was really cool.
Yeah, yeah. And then my producers are, so it just happened randomly. The guy who moved from LA to my neighborhood in Albuquerque to escape the pandemic is this guy Richard Farmer. and he had a friend, Chris Panzion, in I'm not even sure if I'm saying that right, in LA, who he contacted, who's all about shepherding documentary films. And so Richard and Chris have
Wow.
really been spearheading. Kind of, we're building out an online outlet. What is it? A document that you basically an outline of everything that the film is about, the impact statement, and we're
Yes.
kind of building it out. I say like I'm kind of a producer of it, but it seems so like I don't want it to be about me at all. And so when I was filming the survivors, I have no footage of me almost in any of the shots, and
Hmm.
that I didn't want it to be about that. And so we're going to have to refilm everything because they want to tell my story also. So
Right.
it's not self-promotional. Like I don't want it to be self-promotional at all. So I'm kind of very distant from it, but I'm helping them with the content of kind of what I kind of want to steer it towards the testimonies and the stories and everything. But they're doing all the crafting of it. Um, yeah, so what I loved is that Chris is really into social documentary, and so he's done a few that have gone to Sundance and everything, and he's all about building impact campaigns around the
Hmm.
film, which
Great.
I'd love to talk to you probably about this afterwards because I'm sure you have experience with it. But the educational programs around
Yeah.
it,
Yes.
the ways that it can be in high schools that don't have Holocaust education. And what I
Yes.
thought was really smart, what they said was that we want to reach the people, not necessarily the Jewish museums, Holocaust organizations, and people that already know these stories, firsthand. But let's hit the people who don't get this education first and
Hmm.
foremost,
Hmm.
and so they're kind of reverse engineering it where we want to have it play in places that wouldn't are like kind of bereft of what it is that we're trying to
Absolutely.
share, so
Absolutely.
the idea of and you were saying originally like this idea of something being blurry and coming into
Hmm.
focus.
Hmm.
um, just like a painting is broad strokes. Do you know what I mean? And then it gets honed down. That's what I feel like we're doing is we're kind of setting it up broadly first on like, let's reach as many people as we can that don't know about the Holocaust,
Right.
that think that it's this broad abstract thing, but then let's needle down into where it's a detail of somebody that they have a family member that it reminds them of,
Hmm.
where they see the humanity in somebody so they can't have hate for that person,
Right.
so we're educating them. People are educated to hate, I believe. And so
I
I think if we
agree.
can educate them to be more empathetic, I think that's a possibility. If we can get to people. So we're talking about making the film even available for kids, where
Hmm.
it's kind of geared towards kids a little bit and people who love art that wouldn't
Hmm.
necessarily have a Holocaust education. And so kind of thinking in aspects like that versus the stories we're going to tell yet. Do you know what I
Yes.
mean?
I mean, I think you'll get to the point, I'm guessing pretty soon, that it won't, yes, it's through your point of view, but don't worry about it being about you, because what your point of view is so much about other people that you're offering this opportunity to other people to look the way you look, how you see the world, and the whole way that you see the world, at least from my experience of you so far, is that it's always about the other person. And what a gift that is for other people to understand that when they look at somebody else, it doesn't have to be about them, it can be about the other person. I agree with you 100%. Not that we don't want to include the Jewish community, of course we do,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
our goal 1000% is to really get these stories into the younger generations that think of the Holocaust as a civil war, don't even know that the Holocaust existed, come from communities of Holocaust deniers, all that kind of stuff. And then even more broadly, genocide at large, not just the Holocaust, but genocide. And so
Yeah,
we have so much more to continue to talk about, you and I, because there are people that I want to introduce you to, and I'd love to meet your pals.
yeah.
We're all in this together, and I think that what you're doing is amazing.
Thank you.
What do you paint several different subjects at one time, or do you work one at a time with each subject?
Yeah, yeah, no, I have like 10 paintings going now at once or something.
Wow,
It's
wow.
crazy. I'll show you one really quick because
Please
so you don't have to look at
show
this
us
the whole time.
everything.
Well,
I'm
okay,
very
so just here's
curious.
really quick
Show
what's
us
on the
anything you want.
easel.
Yeah.
So there's a broad strokes of a drawing I'm working on for this online class. That's John. But one of the survivors I'm painting is in the studio here. I don't know if I can flip this around. Oh, cool. Yeah,
Mm.
so this is Dario. And I've been
Mhm.
painting him for a while now. He's not even close to being finished, but he passed away unfortunately about maybe a year and a half ago now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And he was incredible. He was losing his memory, unfortunately. I feel like he's
Mm.
at peace now a little bit because of he was in a home. He almost felt like he was back uh, to where he was during the Holocaust a little bit when he was put into a place where he couldn't really have any control over his life. So we took him, Stephen Smith, and like picked me up and my videographer up at like 8 in the morning. We went and saw him in the place where he was staying, and we took him out to Balboa Park in LA and just walked him
Mm-hmm.
around the water there in a wheelchair and stuff. And so here's like kind
Wow.
of a detail of kind of the texture I'm kind of building up. And so I don't think of
Yeah.
myself as a photorealist, because I want the texture of real skin, and I'm not painting every pore. I redrew part of this arm. You can tell over the over the watch.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
some of the hand.
Got it.
I still have a lot more to go on this piece. And I always build up the surface texture of the background so it's got just some it's just tactile and not flat.
Yes. Right.
Same with like building up the skin, and I do a lot of hatching to kind of follow the form. You can kind of see that's Dario. And then I
Oh,
have like
beautiful.
other pieces that were demos for workshops. Like
Gorgeous.
so I do full figures and stuff. I'm ready to do a cast drawing right here to show people how to draw a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
I just got a David Bowie cast. His studio is
Wow.
kind of a mess. This is a survivor I met in San Antonio. That's Bill Samuelson.
Yeah.
Haven't painted him yet. I'm gonna probably do a painting of him soon. Yeah, so I just have like tons of. I've met with 42 survivors now, pretty much
Yeah.
all over the world, and I've only painted probably 25, 30 of them, or
Mm-hmm.
painted and drawn. And so I'll
Mm-hmm.
do drawings, and then I'll use that for the painting. So I always have a sketch pretty much that goes along with the painting. Dario, I've drawn in my sketchbook like 3 or 4 times now, and just to kind of spend time with them.
Right.
This idea of it's connecting a little bit better. Hopefully, it kind of seeps into the painting. And again, just hopefully be able to get more of a like a personalized story out there for people
Mm-hmm.
to kind of be a mirror for who they are, and they see themselves in this person or their family, like we said, so they can be more empathetic.
Right. 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 Do you feel that you have begun to kind of crack the code of why it is that you wanted to get to know these stories more deeply?
Yeah, I think I don't know exactly why. I think that it's because I'm still trying to figure out more of my family history.
Mm-hmm.
um, I think as I learn more of my family history, things will start connecting a little bit better and link up. I wish I had a better answer for you. I mean, I think that also as an artist, they're just the stories are, and I love history so much, that it's just kind of a way of interacting with history is something that's super important that needs to go out there. And I have the capability to be able to do that. So why don't I? You know what I mean?
Right.
And it also kind of connects stories that are going on today. I just can't stand when people are considered the other at all, any
Mm-hmm.
group of
Mm-hmm.
people, and I've faced anti-Semitism like we all have that are Jewish most of the cases. When I was a kid, people used to throw pennies at me and tell me to pick them up. And I'm like, I don't understand what that means.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm like,
Yes.
but I was like little, so I know now that it was something bad. I just used to think it was stupid. But
Right. Right.
and I get hate on my Instagram and my YouTube every now and then,
Really?
for the stuff I post, and
I'm so
it's
sorry.
fine. Uh, it is. I've learned that. So it's like only a small percentage, which is great because there's so much more like love out there than there is that little bit of hate. That it'll
Yeah.
get squashed. So I'm never discouraged by it ever.
Good. Good. As you shouldn't be. Oh my gosh. I want to make sure that I'm pronouncing your last name correctly. Go ahead and pronounce it for us.
Just Kassan.
Kassan. Okay. So
Kassan. Yeah.
the accent is on the first syllable, Kassan. And because I think I mispronounced it at the beginning of the hour or
It
the
does.
beginning
It
of
does
the
it.
30 minutes or whatever. But I'm so grateful for the time that you've taken to talk with me at the Museum of Tolerance, talk with me a couple of weeks ago, talk with us today. I would love for you to come back anytime you want. And
Yeah.
I'm just so thrilled to learn from you and experience how you see the world. And your works are just stunning. They're just they inspire me to want to be a painter. I have never been a painter.
Do it.
But it's so you make it look so easy. And
I mean, 10,000 hours, but
right,
I think
exactly.
anything, if you're like, so this idea of talent, like you're not born talented as a painter. I think you're born with see, I think of talent as love. Like if I love something so much and I'm so dedicated to it, I'm going to do it more than anything else. And then you're going to get better at it. You know what I mean? You're going to want to learn more about it. And I'm learning how to play guitar right now in the last year. And so I love it so much. I always have I have like a guitar in every room, you know, different levels of guitar, good ones and bad ones and whatever. And I'm always like playing it, and it's driving my wife crazy. She's totally getting into it now, which is awesome. But like, because I think I'm getting better, so it doesn't sound as bad. But I think that pick up a paintbrush, you know what I mean? Again, like go on a trip. The product, the finished product doesn't ever really matter. It's the experience that you're going to have, again, being on a mountainside in Israel, doing a painting that you're going to remember, even if it's crap, you know what I mean? But you might surprise yourself also. So there you go.
It's true.
So I mean, it's not going to happen if you just try it.
That's right. That's right.
You know?
The person I am today that can't play piano is the same person that can't play yesterday and will be tomorrow unless I actually sit down at the piano and start to play. So
Yeah, no, and I really appreciate you having this discussion with me. This is awesome. I really appreciate it. And talking to me that day. I was like at a sort, I didn't know anybody, so it was great to talk to someone who was friendly and spend some time. And I'm super stoked about your project because that story is incredible.
Thank you very, very much. Well, to be continued, and we will stay in touch about all of it. I am so excited to have you as part of Would You Hide Me's, journey, because I feel like you are already. And even just coming on Banter with Beth today, I feel like you're part of the journey.
Yeah,
so,
if I can help anyway, let me know.
Thank you. And the same over here. I've got some cool ideas, and you're so cool, and it's so much fun talking to you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and say hey to your wife, and
Definitely.
happy painting, and we're going to post this, be on IGTV, of course, but then we'll also post it later on this afternoon on our YouTube channel. So if anybody wants to view it again and they're not on IGTV, they can go to Beth Lane Film, and it'll be on YouTube. So there we are. Yeah.
Can I say something really quick?
Please.
I just want to say hey to Ryan, Amber, that are out there.
Cool.
Just want to say hi. And everybody else I missed, because I can only see a little window of people that are here, and I appreciate everyone showing up. And it's awesome.
Well, and I appreciate, apparently you said to me that you actually went live on your Instagram this morning to let people know that you were doing this interview. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah,
that is so generous. That is so nice of you. I love having new names and faces on here, and I really, really appreciate that. That's very cool.
No, you're doing something really important, obviously. You know what I mean? I think it's, we need a bigger megaphone if we can.
Yes. Yeah, we do. Well, together on the work, right?
Yeah.
Together on the work. Okay, till next time. Thank you so much, David.
Awesome.
Thanks everybody for showing up this morning. We'll see you next week on Banter. And next week we have Julia Elsky, who's got this incredible, gosh, I have to pull up my screen here to talk about the title of her book. Hold on one second and I'll pull it up.
I see Eve.
Yeah. Julia's written this amazing book called Writing Occupation, Jewish Emigre Voices of Wartime in France. And then the week after that, we have Karen Remler, who really discusses the memorialization through art and objects about genocide and the ethics of comparing the Holocaust to other genocides and things like that. So, Holocaust awareness, courage, bravery, humanitarianism, these are all the things that we talk about here. So, and I love the different points of view, and certainly your paintings have created a point of view that are just riveting. So thank you for doing the work you do.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks again.
You bet. All right. Bye, everybody.
Awesome. Take care. Okay. Bye, guys. Ciao.